Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for December 13th. December 13th is the 347th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, with 18 days remaining to the end of the year. If you have any Christmas mail to get out, you better get it out right away, and you'll probably have to pay extra to get it there in time. Today's word is transpicuous. Probably familiar with the word conspicuous, which means obvious, prominent, impossible to miss. Well, today's word is transpicuous. Where conspicuous means obvious, transpicuous is an adjective that means easily seen through or understood. This word comes from Latin roots, trans, which means across, and spicere, to look. Ultimately from the Indo-European root spec, to observe, which also gives us the words suspect, spectrum, bishop, espionage, despise, telescope, spectator, spectacles, conspectus, omphaloscepsis, which means navel gazing, perspicacious, specious, and speculum. I'm fascinated by the origins of words, in case you can't tell. The earliest documented use of the word transpicuous is 1638. So it's a rare word. You won't see it very often, but now you know what it means. And if you have the opportunity to use the word transpicuous, go ahead and try it. I'd be interested to hear of your results. Now, before we get started, I want to mention again that links to my research are included in the show notes below. And with that, we're going to start in the year 1545, when the Council of Trent began. This was the 19th Ecumenical Council of the Catholic Church, which was, in this case, prompted by the Protestant Reformation. The council issued condemnations of what it defined to be heresies committed by proponents of Protestantism. They don't hold these councils on a regular basis, but only when they need to. The next one they had after the Council of Trent was 300 years later. In 1577, Sir Francis Drake set sail from Plymouth, England on his round-the-world voyage. English seaman Francis Drake set out from Plymouth, England with 5 ships and 164 men on a mission to raid Spanish holdings on the Pacific coast of the New World and explore the Pacific Ocean. 3 years later, Drake's return to Plymouth marked the first circumnavigation of the Earth by a British explorer. In 1636, the Massachusetts Bay Colony organized 3 militia regiments to defend the colony against the Pequot Indians. This organization is recognized today as the founding of the National Guard of the United States. On this day in 1776, General Charles Lee left his troops for Widow White's Tavern. American General Charles Lee left his army riding in search of female sociability at Widow White's Tavern in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. General George Washington had repeatedly urged General Lee to expedite his movements across New Jersey in order to reinforce Washington's position on the Delaware River. We actually talked about this event back on November 21st, and I've placed a link to that video in the show notes if you'd like to review the history or hear more about it or hear it again. In 1769, Dartmouth College was founded by the Reverend Eleazar Wheelock, with a royal charter from King George III on land donated by Royal Governor John Wentworth. In 1818, the 16th First Lady of the United States, Mary Todd Lincoln, was born on this date. She lived to the age of 63. 1862, the Battle of Fredericksburg. Confederate General Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia repulsed a series of attacks by General Ambrose Burnside's Army of the Potomac at Fredericksburg, Virginia. The defeat was one of the most decisive losses for the Union Army, and it dealt a serious blow to Northern morale in the winter of 1862-63. 1887, American Colonel, Medal of Honor recipient Alvin C. York was born on this day in 1887. Also known as Sergeant York, he was one of the most decorated United States Army soldiers of World War I. He received the Medal of Honor for leading an attack on a German machine gun nest, taking at least 1 machine gun, killing at least 25 enemy soldiers, and capturing 132. York had been drafted during World War I, and he initially claimed conscientious objector status on the grounds that his religious denomination forbade violence, but he did become persuaded that his religion was not incompatible with military service. American actor Van Heflin was born in Walters, Oklahoma on this date in 1908. Hey Walters, I have some extended family with connections in Walters. He played mostly character parts over the course of his film career and had memorable roles in such movie westerns as Shane, 3:10 to Yuma, and Gunman's Walk. He lived to the age of 62. 1918, Woodrow Wilson arrived in France for peace talks. He went there to take part in World War I peace negotiations and to promote his plan for a League of Nations, an international organization for resolving conflicts between nations. This is the birthday of Dick Van Dyke, the quintessential nice guy actor who would become known for his performances in such movie classics as Mary Poppins, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, as well as the 1960s TV sitcom The Dick Van Dyke Show. He was born in West Plains, Missouri, and bless his heart, he's still living as I record this in 2019, and he turns 94 today. Happy birthday, Dick Van Dyke. This is the birthday of American Major League Baseball player Carl Erskine. He was a pitcher for the Dodgers, both in Brooklyn and then in Los Angeles. Erskine pitched 2 of the National League's 7 no-hitters during the 1950s, and still alive as I read this in 2019. He turns 93 today. Happy birthday, Carl Erskine. In 1928, on this day, George Gershwin's An American in Paris was first performed. I've placed a link to a performance of this music in the show notes. 1942, Joseph Goebbels complained of Italians' treatment of Jews. And when I saw this headline, I was surprised. But no, he wasn't complaining about the Italians being mean to Jews, no. No, Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels recorded in his journal his contempt for the Italians' treatment of Jews in Italian-occupied territories, saying, "The Italians are extremely lax in their treatment of Jews. They protect Italian Jews, both in Tunis and in occupied France, and won't permit their being drafted for work or compelled to wear the Star of David. There's more, but I won't trouble you with all that right now. If you want to see more about it, there's a link in the show notes. Joseph Goebbels was a horrible human being." This is the birthday of American singer, songwriter, guitarist, and actor Ted Nugent. As I read this in 2019, he turns 71 today. Happy birthday, Ted Nugent. In 1949, the Knesset voted to move the capital of Israel to Jerusalem. This is the birthday of American actor and director Steve Buscemi, who turns 62 today. 1961, American folk artist Anna Mary Robertson Moses, better known as Grandma Moses, died on this day at the age of 101. I remember that. What appeared to be an interest in painting at a late age was actually a manifestation of a childhood dream. With no time in her difficult farm life to pursue painting, she was obliged to set aside her passion to paint. At age 92, she wrote, "I was quite small and my father would get me and my brothers white paper by the sheet. He liked to see us draw pictures, and it was a penny a sheet and lasted longer than candy." It was her father's encouragement that fed her passion to paint, and this dream was able to manifest later in her life when she began painting in earnest at the age of 78. 1972, Apollo program. Eugene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt began the third and final extravehicular activity, or EVA, or moonwalk, of Apollo 17. To date, they are the last humans to set foot on the moon. And I think that's going to do it for us today. As always, links to my research are included in the show notes. Thank you so much for watching. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Check out my other channel, 8 Susquehanna, while you're here, and feel free to share. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Alrighty, back to work. Okie dokie, Smokey. Let's just rearrange that a little bit. That's a lot of words. Sometimes when you read the words, it's not quite enough if you haven't put enough words in there to begin with. That's not the way I like to tell it anyway. We don't need all those words. Hope I pronounced that right. So happy for editing. So many edits. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? She's not a man. Did I do this whole thing without a microphone? Dadgummit. Well, this is why I don't do live shows.